Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great viewer question, and that is how to regain a feeling of optimism and just sort of, feeling that you have something to look forward to after you have sort of exposed someone who is malignant narcissist, or you've discovered that this individual is a covert narcissist. How do you sort of get optimism and hope back? How do you start looking on the bright side of the street again? How do you start keeping your head up? How do you start breathing easy again? How do you get ambition or motivation, or what's known in psychology as an intrinsic locus of control? How do you get that back? Well, I feel it's very important to understand that if you've been in a relationship with someone who is toxic or a covert narcissist, there becomes what is known as an external locus of control, meaning you have to keep your eye on somebody. You have to keep your ear to the floor for their footsteps. You have to keep your ear to the door for their, for them even before they're walking down the hall. You have to keep hyper vigilant, hyper aroused, and sensitive to their needs, more so and oftentimes to the neglect of your own, because of a message that is communicated by a covert narcissist. Covert narcissist is the one who has a selfishness. They are selfish. They tend to not really register or feel responsible, accountable, or want to acknowledge and validate that others around them have a degree of needs or right to an opinion or feelings, and to acknowledge and validate them, rather than ignoring, brushing aside, saying that they're irrelevant or unimportant. And because of this, if you're chronically exposed to a covert narcissist, you're going to feel that you're not really taken seriously, that you're not really sort of there, and it's really because of their absence of emotional intelligence and the ability to sort of deal with other viewpoints, other needs, other than their own. It's oftentimes registered as irrelevant or unimportant or non-existent. It's the other, it's the thing is, if you don't see it, it didn't happen. Just sort of letting themselves off of the hook. They just turn the other cheek, turn the other ear, ignore it. And people feel ignored. And once again, like my dentist who had a poster on the ceiling, ignore your teeth and they'll go away. It's kind of like that's the message, that if you're with a covert narcissist and they're aloof, they're just sort of dismissive or minimizing, you feel ignored. You feel that you're not seen, you're not heard, you're not felt. And because of this, people oftentimes then receive that subconsciously as they are sometimes non-existent, they don't feel real, they don't feel, tolerant, or they don't develop self-trust because of this, and they don't feel that they can take themselves seriously. So it becomes a difficulty of communication not only between the covert narcissist and the supply, but the supply within themselves. So not only is there a communication breakdown between the two, there becomes a communication breakdown within the target, within the supply. Meaning, if you're not taken seriously, it's like you're always crying wolf. It's very difficult and insidious to point and say, I need this, when it's the absence of your needs. In other words, because you haven't received eye contact, because you haven't received the time of day, because you haven't received, somebody, developing communication, they've just sort of ignored you. Or, the old silent treatment, or minimizing you, being very dismissive. It creates not only low self-esteem, meaning low self-value, but low self-credibility, and sort of an intolerance of self when it gets very severe, but often so a feeling of, dissolution, dissociation, people feeling lost, that they don't have direction, and they have a degree sort of loss of validation within, and they are unable to take themselves seriously. because their needs have been laughed at, scoffed at, told we're irrelevant, too much, you're too sensitive, you being real was not accepted. In a covert narcissist relationship, this can fester for weeks, months, and years. Some of the people that I've worked with have been enduring this for decades. So you can imagine that if you have been, sort of emotionally neglected, and oftentimes at your expense, but really with people who are incapable of giving the attention and the validation that you need, they just don't have the skill set. These people are individuals. They have certain limitations, despite that they might be very unlimited in specific areas, but they can be very limited in isolated areas, and oftentimes that can be in relationships. When they might be wonderful at making money, they might be wonderful at doing specific things, but they are not good with people, or different people, or people who are different than them, or who have different emotional compositions or constitutions, if you will. And so that openness and awareness, oftentimes you will not see. You will see a degree of intolerance, especially in people who are covert narcissistic. And it's a very passive sort of intolerance. So it breeds a sort of completed cycle where, because this person then has the authority, they have the say-so, and they do it oftentimes through being dismissive. In other words, a dismissive selfishness, where they don't feel it's their place. It's not their, it's not my job. It's the old, you're walking up, to someone in a store, that's not my department, that's not my job, that's not my area. And then they just let it go at that. They're not, gonna extend themselves anymore. It's a degree of selfishness, emotional laziness. It can then breed, though, a feeling of apathy and hopelessness and desperateness in a relationship when it goes a long way and it goes far. It continues and continues and continues. So it oftentimes doesn't stay static. There is a pain that will develop, an emotional pain of being, unrecognized, unvalidated, not attended to. And so if you've experienced this, where the fights have gotten, silly, ridiculous, and you have tolerated this out of reactive, the anger, or the, I'm just going to then, accept this stonewalling, and I'm just going to deal with it, and I'm going to, pout, and I'm going to be unhappy. You're programming yourself then to be very unhappy and really begin to feel sorry for yourself versus having empathy for yourself. So you don't want to feel sorry for yourself, because then you're having the good old-fashioned pity party. And a pity party is celebrating your victimhood. So why would you want to celebrate your own mistreatment? You need to understand that, to a degree, even if you've encountered this for a long period of time, it's never too late to check within and validate within. It's never too late. And so this dismissiveness, though, oftentimes then is so repeated and so rehearsed and so rememorized that it becomes habitual. It becomes like an emotional habit to not validate yourself, not take yourself seriously, not weigh in on things, not be listened to. So it's just kind of like sliding back. There's not enough backbone. There's not enough strength that you have, sort of cauterized and healed within in order to move forward, not only in the relationship, but in life. So if you're finding yourself at a struggle with this, or being in a covert narcissist relationship for a long period of time where you have not been treated well, then, it needs to begin with you. The change needs to begin with you. You need to be able to take yourself seriously and really, not dropping the ball on your needs, whether they're relationship needs, income needs, health needs, exercise needs, healing needs, spiritual needs. You need to take these seriously. People, they take it serious for half a day and then they're back right where they started. Well, you're not taking yourself seriously. You need to develop the skill to attend and develop that rapport within. So if you haven't developed a lot of rapport about yourself with others, then it's going to be very difficult to kind of start that. But it's never too late to start. There's always a beginning. There's always an opportunity. There's always a new day and a new dawn. When are you going to decide? And it's important that if you're having and struggling with this, if you develop a vision board, if you have images around you that validate the life that you want to lead, the feelings that you want to have, the experiences that you want to have, and these are in the image form around you. We talk about having, images that are exemplary of the life that you want to lead, the places you want to live, the things you want to have, the relationships you want to have and experience, the places you want to experience, how you want to become. These are all important questions that you are responsible and accountable for. You ultimately are accountable and responsible for self. So you need to be able to take yourself seriously, to be able to, embrace your needs seriously, embrace your relationship needs seriously, your health needs seriously, your mental health needs seriously, your income needs seriously. I am serious. So you need to develop that certain specific tone and to understand that it's crucial. It is important that you are important. You are the most important person. There is no one more important than you when it comes to establishing your own degree of seriousness and self-trust. And then you have to have behaviors that then stem from this, which are indicative and then build up your self-trust and your credibility in your reliance and being able to have visual images that you are a person of value. Whether it's an award, certain things that you have accomplished will be able to give you a degree of self-validation, the I have, and being able to own that. But oftentimes people who have been in covert narcissist relationships, they experience kind of like an imposter syndrome where they don't feel like that they are a truly lovable or trustworthy or credible person. They've been knocked down so many times that has become the fabric of their being. They've just been knocked down and they have lost the strength and the optimism to get back up. They become pessimistic or just really apathetic, learned helplessness. And that can be a very sort of deadline state, flat emotional state. I'm devoid of joy, devoid of any happiness, devoid of ambition, devoid of any sort of juice or momentum, just sort of, giving you rhythm moving forward. And because if you've been ignored, overlooked, overshadowed, then you're going to feel in the dark, gloomy, and then if you continue to carry that baton of how you were treated and then treat yourself the same way and you're getting the same results, then you have to say this cycle has to stop and the new cycle is going to start with me, and how important it is to have a self-image that reflects this, a self-image within that reflects this. In other words, in that behavior then that matches. So you have a degree of coherency within. Coherency and congruency within. Meaning your thoughts are then leading to actions which you're completing. You're able to get the gears moving in this direction versus the fits and starts in feeling like I've got, part of my crankshaft missing because I can't even get the key in the ignition because I don't feel that I am worth, I don't have an engine within, I don't have direction, I don't have the gears turning. You need to be able to understand the degree of seriousness and then really commitment, having a degree of, decisiveness that comes with commitment, comes with being loyal to yourself. But you have to value yourself to be loyal to. So these are some blind spots and some empty spots within that you're going to need to accept, acknowledge, and validate, and then develop a degree of rapport within to be able to develop, and you need to be able to develop skills and behaviors that are in congruency and that match the self-image and then feeling within that you need to develop and cultivate. If it has been ignored by someone who is a narcissist, a manipulator, a covert narcissist, someone who doesn't really know you, they are selfish, they kind of laugh and are judgmental at others who have less than, and you kind of feel that they're have an intolerance, and a degree, that is their discomfort. You don't have to alleviate others' discomfort. You have to be able to attend to your own. I find that oftentimes people who have been targets of abuse or manipulation, controllers, they have oftentimes been way too accountable to others and unaccountable to self. And then they wonder why, it's not reciprocated. Because if you're in a relationship with a controller or a manipulator, oftentimes they're acting out of that judgment that they are, number one about themselves, oftentimes at the expense of others. And you have to, you find yourself, well, I don't want to be in that pile where I'm not attended to. So people then develop a high tolerance for being mistreated, and they don't develop enough of that internal strength. So that self-image is so important. So I would implore you, if you're having trouble with that and you've been in a relationship with a covert narcissist where you've been ignored, talked down to, not even given a chance, told to walk and run before you could crawl, you weren't even given the validation, the attention, the support, wherever it is, at what stage in your life, then you need to realize that you need to give unto yourself. You need to give to yourself, and and have a degree of seriousness and trustworthiness. In other words, completing that valuation within and becoming responsible and accountable. That will help to build up your degree of self-trust, being able to listen and attend to within, and then seeing that your decisions are excellent. Your decisions are right on. Your decisions are bringing, good feelings, good results, good experiences. I'm so glad that when it was going downhill, when it was all going in the pooper, I'm so glad that even though it was about to fall apart, thank goodness what are some behaviors that you can do that are really important that could help clear your path, clear the way, and be a little bit more on the bright side of the street rather than tending towards the dark side of the street. If you're following in the footsteps of someone who has mistreated you, you're always going to feel sort of in the dark, in the doldrums, in the drearies. You don't have an image of just sort of a positive outlook. So you need to open up the shutters. You need to get yourself in the sun. You literally need to develop your I am and follow through and develop and apply a number of the tools so you can build a better outlook and a better sort of true identity and self-image that is reflective and conducive, that you select and elect within, not one that was handed down to you like some hand-me-downs. You're going to be, you're the last in a family of 30. Really, do you want to put yourself there? Do you want to put yourself, I'm last in a group of 2. I mean, do you always want to be last? Because your self-image is fostering that. Your self-image is allowing that. And so people develop a tolerance to this, and they no longer have the strength to stand up for themselves. So, it's to understand to a certain degree of the degree to which the subconscious is your navigator. Your subconscious is the engineer of the train. That's the engine. So you need to give it fuel. You have to understand how it works. You have to be able to follow the wires and say, oh, it connects here. Oh, this wire connects there. You have to understand a little bit about how you work. We're talking about you here. You are important. Not just someone who you admire, not just someone who you look up to, not someone who you've fallen in love with. You are important. You're the one who has to be accountable and recognize and validate this and speak up for yourself and say, whoa, I'm I need, and then have that degree of following up and then writing down, using the recovery gift, using the recovery pages, using the recovery date, doing the astromations. If you have not been yet doing, your box, your astromations and your aspirations, you're missing out on a huge, potent tool. Go back to the videos where we've done and work on these. And how many of you are doing this 2 times a day like we recommend? Raise your hands. If you're not doing the work, then you're not going to get the results. You're not going to see it work, the magic and miracles in your life. And you're going to feel that you're plateauing, going nowhere. So I would encourage you to use some tools and take yourself seriously and develop credibility and self-trust. It'll help you to own your feelings, own your decisions, and allow people to be who they are and not be on the receiving end of their negativity, because that's them and then you are you. And developing an I am that you trust and can be loyal to and have an image of in your mind's eye is so crucial. So if you don't have that yet, don't worry about it. It's not too late. Work on the vision board, cutting out those images that prime the subconscious of an image of how you'd like your relationship to be. Is it people holding hands, or do you have an image of people fighting on your vision board? Do you have a vision of you walking and holding your head high, or do you have an image of you in the corner with your head in your hands? What is your self-image? Take a pen and paper and write down right now, my self-image is, and write 1 through 20. And write down what your positive self-image is. Let's do this now. My positive self-image is professional, caring, loving, sensitive, outgoing, happy, creative, honest, serious. What is your self-image? If it's a lot of the negatives, then we need to work with that, because that's kind of like your raw material here. This is kind of like the flour for the cake. You need to understand that your self-image is navigating and directing your decision, your choices, and your energetic vibration, and what you draw into your energetic circle and your opportunities, and what ends up manifesting and creating in your life. So you literally have the creator within you. You have the creative spark, you have the divine, you have the maker, the creator, divine infinite intelligence within, running through your body. I mean, if you doubt it for a moment, wiggle your toes. Okay? That's divine order. That is created by the divine. That was not put together by man on an assembly machine. That is divine. You have the divine within you. And the degree that you can recognize, embrace, acknowledge, and validate that, the degree to which you're going to feel uplifted and you're going to become more conscious and more sensitive to yourself, and then develop along the positive, orderly direction that you desire with that outcome, and you'll begin to manifest. But if you find yourself just sort of, you're going along that journey and then you want to run backwards, then you have, a certain degree of fear of success. So you have to look at that and, work on that and become sensitive to yourself and your own self-image and what it is that you're doing to bolster that or take it down. I implore you to do what you need to do to build it up. Your I am, your self-image. We're talking literal images of yourself. Are you an equestrian? Are you a person who loves horses? Do you love farming? Do you love plants? Do you love computers? Do you love music? Do you love food? Do you love being? Do you love watching TV? How can you harness what you love and then develop it so that you're getting more of, that strength within, and you're not so susceptible to being taken down by someone who either ignores you, talks bad about you, is trying to trigger you. Do you see how important it is to develop and get more weight on your side rather than giving weight always to others? It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day. Or as a great viewer said, peace in.